Hi there people, it's me again, and yeah, let's get to some mixed reviews. You know the drill by now. So, first one for today is by Michele Zanni. He's from Italy, so I'm not sure really how you pronounce that name. Oh well, let's get to the mix. Okay, first impression, it works. I feel like the guitars are a bit too muffled. They could benefit from a bit more presence to make them stand out a little bit more. They get a little bit muffled under the mix. Kind of interesting what you did with the two sets of rhythm guitars. I'm noticing you're keeping the second layer guitars more on the left side. So it's definitely louder on the left side, and then on the right side we have more the main rhythm guitars. So and that's completely fine, that's cool. What I'm noticing though is the main rhythm guitars sound a bit too muffled compared to the guitar layers that are more on the left side. So those are a bit brighter, and then on the other side the rhythm guitars are a bit darker sounding, and that makes the stereo field a little bit unbalanced. So it's just a little bit of EQ work, nothing more. Yeah, also the low end is pretty good. Overall, this is a solid mix so far. It's really, I personally say the rhythm guitars, they could benefit from a bit more presence in the upper mid range, but otherwise, good job. Okay, the toms are too boomy here. You may Want to check out the low end there. And they could perhaps be a little bit more scooped out in the low mid range so they don't muddy stuff up too much. Yeah, as I said, overall this is a pretty good mix. Just some few EQ moves on the guitars and also on the toms and you're pretty much there. I suspect though, if you would raise the presence on the rhythm guitars, perhaps you will then also have to work a little bit more in the snare. It could be that the snare gets a little bit masked when you EQ balance the guitars a bit more. But I guess a simple volume boost will already do the trick. Next one is by X-Cop. Interesting nickname. Okay, first impression, the cymbals are too bright to the point that they get a little bit harsh and it's kind of distracting from the rest. And I feel like at this point the vocals maybe pushing the master limiter you put on there a little bit too much and it's compressing the whole mix. Here also the hi-hat is popping out too much. You could just drop in the volume a little bit. The kick is a little bit drowned out. It could benefit from a bit more of a high-end click to punch through the guitars, and also the low end seems a little bit masked. But as always, low end. Well, I need to, yeah. Feels like, yeah, the whole low end could have used a little bit of work. The rhythm guitars seem to be quite strong in the low end. It's just one of those things. Leave, you know, about, again, filtering, separating stuff. filter the guitar at a point that they leave enough space for the bass guitar to actually occupy the low end range around 100 Hz, give or take. And then also filter the bass at a point that it leaves some space for the kick at around 50-60 Hz, give or take. And you should be good. Otherwise, yeah, I think the low end as a whole could be a bit stronger. So the kick could use a little bit more of a low end boost, and when you filter the guitars appropriately, then also perhaps the bass guitar needs a little bit of a boost around 100 Hz-ish, and then you will have a nicely strong rumbling low end going on. From this point on, let me skip through the mix a little bit. The vocals? I don't know what you did to them. It sounds like there's a slight chorus on them, with something that's constantly giving them a lot of stereo width. It's a cool effect, definitely, but I wouldn't use it all the time. Because when you use it all the time, then it becomes distracting and it's nothing special anymore. When I first noticed it in the first verse, I thought that's a cool thing to do there. But then for the rest of the song, perhaps I would keep them a little bit more centered, a little bit more mono, to get them a bit more focused. Yeah, here you notice the hi-hat is just too loud. It's actually masking the solo. So you want to drop the hi-hat and volume and raise the solo, and then perhaps also volume automate the rhythm guitars to make them come down a dB, 1 or 1.5 dB, so they leave a little bit more space for the solo to stand out. Okay, next one is by Trtschka. I'm pretty sure I butchered your name, so please forgive me. By Xeno type mixing. That's a little bit more easy to pronounce. Easier to pronounce, oh my goodness. Can you English? Good mix so far. I'm pretty sure it's again one of those things. I have a couple of ideas, but that would just be personal preference, nothing really objective. So this works perfectly fine. Okay, just one thing really. The rhythm guitars could benefit from a little bit less stronger low end, because that distorted low end kind of makes it a little bit muddy down there. So really just switch it up a little bit. Take down the low end from the rhythm guitar somewhat, or filter a little bit more, and raise the low end of the bass guitar a little bit more. That way you will clean it up. And perhaps the guitars could also benefit from a little bit less distortion, so it doesn't get too fizzy but stays a bit more defined. Yeah, overall this is a really great mix. And the thing about the rhythm guitars, I know that may sound quite nitpicky and the overall quality is still fine, but hey, this is a mixing contest and there are already a couple of mixes that are really good. So at some point I do have to get a bit nitpicky. But this is so far also a keeper. Next one is by Dmitriy Ankudinov. Okay, another good mix here. Okay, not quite sure what to say about the low end. There's something I do want to say about it, but it's kind of hard to really pinpoint it. The low end of the kick could be a little bit stronger, so the thump comes through a little bit more. It's masked a little bit. It doesn't really sound muddy, but I feel like it could be a little bit more defined to get a little bit more note definition in those low frequencies. So, and that's, of course, again, bass guitar takes up that role. I feel like perhaps around 200 to 300 hertz, the bass guitar could use a little bit of a dip. Also seemed like, yeah, I'm not sure. It seemed like the kick drum would create a little bit of distortion that's creating a little bit of muddiness then also in the 200 hertz range. But it's a pretty tiny thing. I really only hear that with the headphones and when I listen very carefully. So, but here in the context of the full mix with speakers and whatnot, it still works perfectly fine. The guitars could perhaps also benefit from a little bit less distortion, perhaps also a little bit more noise gating, because on the little pauses in the riffage, you do notice that there's still some noise going on. The distortion is carrying through the whole time. It's making it a little bit too... Yeah, it's taking out some of the dynamics of the guitar playing.
Wake up from this nightmare.
Yeah, it's another great mix. And about the nitpicks, well, again, this is a mixing contest, not a charity. But this is also a keeper for now. And we are already at the last one for today. Again, this one is by Marcos Gomes. Let's check him out. Okay, so the guitars could definitely benefit from more distortion. There's too little going on. It sounds more like a crunchy tone. It's lacking a lot of energy. This still feels very rough overall. Also the drums feels like you did very little processing to them.
I'm running out of breath. I'm running out of steam. I'm running out of space as I pace back and forth in this blasting machine. The lion rests his head. The lion's all but dead. The lion can't be tamed, can't be shamed into serving the massive disease. Oh, we're getting loose. Then we will be completely unstoppable. Just wait, the time is coming soon for us to break out of this cage. Whoa!
Okay, yeah. I don't know, the whole thing sounds very raw to me. Also, I can barely make out any effects going on the vocals. I mean, that's not a bad thing when you're keeping things a bit rougher, but you do notice it's lacking a lot of energy that you would get from actually doing some processing. The bass guitar, I can barely hear.
How did I get here? What has led me to being docile? Oh, could I have let these bars be placed around my heart and soul? Oh, no, it's become my only home. Oh, no, I will not rest until I wake up from this nightmare.
See, here in this filter guitar, you do have a lot of distortion, or enough distortion. You would kind of need about that level of distortion also on the main rhythm guitars, so they have that energy. Because when you go from this guitar sound now to your cleaner sounding rhythm guitars, a lot of the energy from the music gets sucked out. So give it more push.
It's very dead.
I do hear the solo, but it's super duper faint and feels like you didn't actually... Almost sounds like it's still the I. Are you sure you sent me the final mix? And if this is your final mix, I'm sorry if that sounded offending. I don't want to offend anybody. I'm not that kind of guy. It's just that there's a lot that still needs to be done here. It's not bad. There are no deficiencies here. It's very, very rough. Like you barely did anything to the tracks. Of course, you could argue, well, you don't always need to process stuff. You could also just keep it rough sounding. And of course, there's also an option. But still, the point of mixing is not just to make it sound listenable or give it a decent overall sound quality, but also there is an artistic side to mixing. Because mixing is a part of the artistic process of making music. So, and that's needs to put in the energy, the life into music. And here, I'm not feeling that. That's it again for this video. Let's check here. I still have over 100 to go through. There are a lot of entries here, so this will definitely take over 20 more mix reviews videos, so it's a lot of work still in front of me. But I hope you people enjoy watching these videos. I hope they help out. Also, for those who don't participate in the contest, or if I'm talking about other mixes than yours, then I hope that also gives you some pointers. So you still have time until Saturday, this coming Saturday. Well, I'm not sure when this, no, this video will still come out today. So at the time of recording, yes, that's how fast I work sometimes. And then hopefully there won't be too many more mixes for me to go through, because this is still a lot. Here on Gmail, it's like 2 pages full of entries. But I guess it's turning out well. I mean, it's some very solid participation in here. There are some really good mixes so far, and some mixes that still need work. So this is very mixed through, and I like it. I like it a lot. And so far, I'm not really getting tired of this song, because I'm always excited to see what the next person is coming up with. So, until the next video, have fun going on with your mixing processes.